Hey YouTube, it's your girl Yana Marie, and today I want to go over tips to help you get over stage fright when you're singing. Yana Marie music, create with me. So the first thing I want to talk about with stage fright is that you are not alone, okay? So find peace and solace with that, because everybody gets nervous when it comes to getting on stage, putting on a performance, or doing a speech, a presentation. Nobody really likes that. I mean, maybe a few crazy people do, but for the most part, people do not like getting on stage and being the center of attention that way. So don't feel like you're alone. Don't feel like you're crazy. I'm talking about celebrities, famous people, people that you wouldn't even expect, people that have been through thousands of performances still get nervous, okay? So don't feel bad about it. Don't be too stressed. Don't be too embarrassed. You are not in this by yourself. So the thing about stage fright is it comes in varying levels. Some of us can get on stage, and by the time we get over the first few jitters, we do good. Some people's nerves are so little that they barely notice, but some people get so nervous to the fact where it really messes up their performances. So here are a few tips that can help you out. I do want to point out the fact that there is no magic solution and there is no instant solution. You can go through some of these tips and they can stand out for you, but it won't help you 100% on your next go automatically just because you heard what I was saying. You got to get into the practice, get into the habit. It's a slow journey to getting over anxiety, and it will not happen 100% for you most likely, but why not find some ways to lessen your anxiety by, let's say, 30%, 40%, 50%, because that will help you a lot when it comes to your future performances. So my first tip for you is to keep the main goal of your performance in mind. Keep the main message of your song in mind so that can lessen the thoughts that you're having about you messing up and you personally going through some embarrassment. Keep the whole goal of that production you're involved in mind. Maybe it's a whole stage play, maybe it's a whole church performance going on. Just think about it more so on a grander scale than just you, and that'll help you get the pressure off of that small performance that's a part of that larger work. Because yeah, you can get in your head about messing up and no messing this up, but overall, if you're doing good for the overall musical performance, then you're okay. It doesn't need to be perfect. If you're spreading the right message, if you're giving the right vibes to the people in the audience, that's really all that matters. You don't have to nitpick every single note. You don't have to move perfectly. It's really about the full production and really about the overall music. And make sure you're thinking about that before you're getting on stage to help you lessen your nerves. And let's take it a step further with the goal and think about the people in the audience. Think about what the people in the audience are getting out of it more so than what you're putting into it. Because we as performers, we can get so caught up in the moment about hitting the right notes, looking good, making sure our outfit's on point. But let's talk about how the audience will receive it. Let's talk about how good the music will hit them. Let's talk about how those lyrics will impact their lives. Let's talk about how the gift that we have as music is supposed to be given to others anyway. So we don't have to be so self-aware to the point where we're not thinking about what it's doing for other people. Because at the end of the day, that musical gift is for you to spread to other people. It's not even about you per se. So let's think of you more so as a vessel to just give out good music and to just spread the positivity that comes along with good music. And as long as you're doing good overall, you don't have to stress about being perfect, and you don't have to have anxiety around the fact that you're being a perfectionist. And when you're keeping people in your heart, when you're keeping the audience member in your heart, keep in mind that people love to see confident people, and that can bring out the confidence in themselves. So you getting on stage acting like you have the confidence of a queen can positively affect somebody in the audience. They can say, I really like the swag she's putting on right now. I see myself in her. I'm inspired to do the same thing. And in that same vein of thinking about other people, let's take it to the other side and think about how everybody is selfish. We as people are selfish. You're probably going through these motions right now of anxiety a little bit because you're selfish. You're worried about your own embarrassment, worried about looking bad, worried about hitting the wrong notes, worried about somebody clowning you for sounding bad. But let's take this moment and think about how people in the audience, they're worried about them. Yeah, you sound good, but they're worried about how the music is impacting them. They're worried about who's texting them in that moment. They're worried about the chores they gotta go home to. They're worried about the next day. They're worried about trying to get the load off about the work they had earlier. Like, if you sit back and think about how selfish people are, it can help you take the load off of yourself, because people are thinking about them at the end of the day. They're not thinking about you to the point where they're looking at every little thing you do. Even if you mess up, even if you do something that's really obviously wrong in your performance, they'll notice it, but then they'll go back to thinking about themselves, because at the end of the day, we're selfish people. So that can help you out in this scenario, because you can do your worst, people might notice, but they're going to go back to them. So don't think that somebody's going to be thinking for days on end about you hitting that bad note or you tripping up the steps. It's okay, because most people are in their heads about their own self anyways. And my last tip is going to be a bit left field, but I want you to think about the bigger picture. Because yes, you're putting on this performance, you're doing the show. It might be for a few people, it might be for 50 people, it might be 100, it might be 1,000 if you're doing really good in your career. But think about the fact that it's just one performance. It's one little performance in the hundreds of performances you do. So you can do your worst, okay? And then it won't really matter in the grand scheme of your career. Or let's take it even further. It's 1 million people doing 1 million performances like every day, every week. So your one performance, you could do the worst, you could do everything wrong. You could fall on stage, you can have your pants fall off too, you could be hitting the wrong note on your way down when you're falling. You could just bomb it, okay? But in the grand scheme of things, you're probably not doing anything on that huge of a scale anyway, to the point where the whole world will notice. So take some of that pressure off. I know it might be a little bit humbling to think about, but in the millions of performances that have happened before and that will happen after you, it is okay. It is not the end of the world. It is not that big of a deal if you do bad. Take that pressure off of yourself and see the really big picture right now. So like I said, stage fright doesn't go away 100%. You can just work towards it every day, every performance. You can get a little bit better over time. Don't feel bad if you're getting those crazy thoughts in your head before a performance. You're not crazy. You're not weird. You're not sick in the head. We all as humans get those automatic negative thoughts in our heads when we're having anxiety. So don't feel bad. Just fight those thoughts with more positive thoughts, more realistic outlooks that can help ground you in these situations. So I hope you're checking into YonaMarieMusic.com to get tips and tricks if you're a music artist, and I will see you next week.